Growing up as a kid, yeah. All a nigga wanna have was a Burberry scarf and $3 in my pocket. Instead I got beat with a switch, but I don't give a fuck, but it's on my body. Scars all up on me, but I run around from.
Division is the AFC North. Now the AFC North, like the NFC West, is going to be competing for the title of the toughest division in the NFL this season. Now when you look at this AFC North division, it is absolutely stacked. Now we know how good the Ravens were last season. They were 14-2. They had one of the best records in the NFL. The Steelers went 8-8 without Ben Roethlisberger. With Ben Roethlisberger coming back, you have to expect that they should be at least 2 wins better than what they were last year. Then you got the Cleveland Browns, who once again have a very good offseason. They improved the offensive line. And you got the Cincinnati Bengals, who I think a lot of people are really sleeping on. I think the Cincinnati Bengals could be a lot better than what a lot of people are giving them credit for. The Baltimore Ravens last season had a 14-2 record. They were projected to be the favorites to win the Super Bowl by several people and several analytics. And they lost in the divisional round in shocking fashion to the Tennessee Titans. Now the Baltimore Ravens, oddly enough, are a better team this year than what they were last season. Now offensively, their biggest loss was probably losing Marshall Yanda to retirement. But other than that, this is still the same offense that they had last season. Now Marquise Brown, he should have a breakout season. I think they got a couple of guys on this offense in the receiving corps that can have a breakout season. You still have one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Then you also have J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram as your 1-2 punch at the halfback position. Plus, we can't forget about Justice Hill. So you look at this Ravens team and look at what they have in the passing game for Lamar Jackson throw to. You got Mark Andrews. You got Marquise Brown. You're going to have J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram in the backfield. So this is still going to be a really good offense. And you still have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Then I also think that Lamar Jackson is going to be even better than what he was last season. It's crazy to believe that, but I think that's going to be true. I think Lamar Jackson is going to continue his growth as a passer, and I think that he potentially could win NFL MVP in back-to-back seasons. Then you look at what the Ravens added defensively. They still have Matthew Judon at the time I'm recording this. Although they haven't given him a long-term extension, you got Matthew Judon. You got Calais Campbell. So, I mean, you got a really good defensive line. The linebacking core is a question, but they did pick up Patrick Queen in this past year's NFL draft. And they have one of the best secondaries in the NFL with Earl Thomas, Marlon Humphrey, and Marcus Peters. So I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Kind of going to spoil the rest of the video, but I think the Ravens, without a doubt, are going to win the AFC North. Now the question lies, who's going to finish up as the runner-up? Now you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the Pittsburgh Steelers really surprised a lot of people with the fact that they were still able to somewhat be competitive and still were in the playoff race until the final week, week 17, without Ben Roethlisberger. You had Mason Rudolph at quarterback. You had Devlin Doc Hodges at quarterback, who started the season out on the practice squad, by the way. You got James Conner, who missed several games due to injury. You had Juice Smith-Schuster, who not only just underperformed, but he also missed a good stretch of the season. Then you had a couple of guys on defense who went missing due to injuries. So the Steelers, the fact that they were able to go 8-8 with what they had to deal with last season was really impressive. Now this season, they're coming back fully healthy. Ben Roethlisberger is coming back from his season-ending injury. People still have concerns and questions of how good Ben Roethlisberger is. A lot of people think that Ben Roethlisberger is going to regress and that he's not going to be all that great. Now, although I do think Big Ben has regressed over the last few seasons, I don't think Big Ben is going to regress that bad to the point that he's no worthy of being a starter no more in the NFL. I think that Big Ben is going to be good enough to take the Steelers to the playoffs and win at least 10 games, and he should win Comeback Player of the Year. And when you look at the weapons that Big Ben is going to be throwing to, this is probably the best, most talented offense that the Steelers have had since 2014. And 2014 and 2015 offenses were really impressive. But I mean, you got Juju Smith-Schuster coming back. With Big Ben back, he should improve, and he's in a contract year. You can go ahead and move Juju Smith-Schuster back to slot with Deontay Johnson, because Deontay Johnson was the best player that the Steelers had on the offensive side of football as a rookie. And he wasn't even fully healthy. So with Deontay Johnson, I think Deontay Johnson is good enough to be your number one wide receiver. And you can go ahead and move Juju Smith-Schuster back to slot if you want to, or you can keep Juju as your number 2 option. Let him remain your outside wide receiver and move a guy like James Washington to the slot. James Washington also had a pretty good year as well. You also got Deon Cain, who, although he didn't have a lot of playing time and doesn't really have great numbers for the Steelers based on last season, in a few games and a few plays that he did have, he had some really nice moments. You also pick up Eric Ebron, who the last time we saw Eric Ebron with a lead quarterback with Andrew Luck, he was an All-Pro. Then you also got Vex McDonald. You still got one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. You got James Conner. You got Benny Snell. You got Jalen Samuels. You got Anthony McFarland. So, I mean, this is a really stacked offense that the Pittsburgh Steelers have. And you got Chase Claypool, who I think is going to have a little bit of an impact as a rookie. And the defense, their biggest loss on defense was Javon Hargrave. And Javon Hargrave was only just a really good run stopper. Although last season he did improve his skills as a pass rusher, but predominantly I think he was just really good against the run. So this is basically the same defense last year that the Steelers have. That was the best defense in the NFL. That had 3 Pro Bowlers. Cam Hayward, Minka Fitzpatrick, and TJ Watt, who got robbed for Defensive Player of the Year. Now the Cleveland Browns, I mean, this is still a very good team. Last year they had a very good team, but a big reason why the Browns underachieved and didn't make it to the playoffs was because of coaching. And Baker Mayfield had a sophomore slump. Now, Freddie Kitchens wasn't a great coach. Like we saw, he didn't even know how to get Odell Beckham the ball, and he didn't know how to manage all the personalities and the talent that the Cleveland Browns had. Well, now you bring in Kevin Stefanski, who basically likes to run the ball, and then throw the ball when need be on third down situations with play action. And Baker Mayfield is one of the best quarterbacks when he is in play action situations. So, Baker Mayfield being good when play action is called, having Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry to throw to, having Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the backfield, and having an improved offensive line with Dredrick Willis and one of my favorite offensive linemen in the NFL, Jack Conklin. So, I mean, this offensive line should be really improved. Now, the defense, I still have some questions about. Greedy Williams kind of struggled as a rookie. And Denzel Ward, I mean, is still a really good cornerback, but can he stay healthy? And the safety position is a little bit of a concern, too. So, overall, this is a Cleveland Browns team that should make it to the playoffs. And the last team is the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals, I think, are going to be a lot better than what a lot of people expect them to be. Now, are they going to make it to the playoffs? I don't think so, but I do think they have the potential to be 7-9, maybe 8-8. Now, I know the offensive line isn't ideal, but if the offensive line is at least average, I think they can win some games. The defensive line and the defense is going to be really good. They have one of the best defensive lines in football. You bring in DJ Reader, who is one of the best run stoppers in the NFL from the Houston Texans free agency. You got Geno Atkins, who has been one of the more underrated players in the NFL the past decade. You got Carlos Dunlap. You got Sam Hubbard, who's coming off a breakout season. You got Jesse Bates and Von Bell at the safety positions. So if the linebacker position is just average, and that's what Cincinnati Bengals need because their linebacker play has been below average or not even that, worse. So the linebacker position improves. This defense could be potentially top 10, top 15 at worst. Now the offense, like I said, the offensive line is a question, but other than that, the skill position is solid. Like Joe Burrow has talent. he has players around him to be successful. You got AJ Green playing on the franchise tag. You got Tyler Boyd, who has been one of the more underrated wide receivers the last 2 seasons. You got Joe Mixon, who has ran for 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. You also got T. Higgins. So, I mean, this Cincinnati Bengals team has some talent. Now, like I said, I'm taking the Baltimore Ravens to win this division. I think Pittsburgh finishes number 2, and I think the Cleveland Browns finish number 3. And I think all 3 of those teams have the potential to all make it to the playoffs.